games that teach too much answer too many questions for the player. They tell them what their goals are, what their abilities are, how to use their abilities well, what are the right answers to the questions of how do I succeed at this game. And a game that guides tells the player what their goals are and tells them how their various abilities work, and it usually stops there. Then it lets the player figure out the rest of the answers for themselves. A great example of this is Civilization, and it was Jake Solomon, lead designer of the XCOM reboots, who had a really insightful comment about this. He said, Civilization is good at accidentally making people strategy gamers. And what he meant by that was, when you play Civ, you make one decision at a time. And you start from very, very simple and very, very few decisions. Where do I found my city? Where do I position my first military units? Which tile am I going to work? Which one am I going to improve? Which direction am I going to explore in? And the brilliance of the Civ design is that every one of those decisions seems consequential, but in the early game, it really isn't. Like, unless you're playing at the highest difficulty level, it really doesn't matter which direction you explore in, which technology you research first, where your first city is, which plot you improve. Instead, Civ says, when you do X, Y happens. It's the F around and find out school of game design. And as a result, when you are through half of a game of Civ, you have a lot of strategic knowledge and you don't even realize it. And the game is good about making sure that it always tells you what's possible and clearly shows you the connections between your activities and their results, but never goes the further step of saying, and this is how you succeed. It doesn't answer these questions for the player. It guides them in the right direction. And then, and most importantly, it lets go and trusts the player. This is one of the hardest things for game designers to do, is like a dad with a kid on a bicycle. At some point, you've got to let go of the seat and let them go. And they might crash, but they're never going to learn to ride the bike if you keep holding on. If you answer the questions for the player, you're stopping them really from being a full player, from engaging with the game and getting the satisfaction that comes from mastering it. A player has to have critical information in order to function in the game. But then you've got to stop there and let the player figure out the rest on their own.